Hey, folks, my guest today is Paroon Shada. He is the founder of onboardmeetings.com. He's doing this to inspire and enable the best board meeting experience possible and finding technology solutions to empower that. All right, Paroon, you ready to take us to the top?
Absolutely. Let's have at it.
All right, now a lot of people, maybe they haven't raised VC. They don't even know what it's like to manage a board. Why is managing a board meeting hard?
Great question. I like to say that there's often a board meeting that you have in mind based on your agenda and the pre-board meeting discussions. Then there's an actual board meeting that you end up having. And then 2 days after the board meeting, you realize there's a whole different board meeting that you should have had. And this emotion is true for all CEOs every time I've checked. And board meetings are hard because they're structured meeting. There's a lot of prep that goes into it. And right before the board meeting, you're clearest about your business. This is what's going well and what's not. And there's new topics to be introduced, and they often show up. And the preciousness of that time to make all the calls, to make sure you're thinking through everything, makes it a very tough interaction. It's difficult to nail them. And our objective is to help CEOs and boards really get the most out of the investment by making the meeting that you had in mind, the meeting that you actually have, the meeting that you should have had all be the same thing.
Now, when we chatted back in July or August of last year, you'd said you had over 2,500 founders and boards really using the platform, and also a lot of government agencies and things of that nature too. Are you still at about 2,500, or have you grown customer base?
We've grown past 3,000 at this point.
Wow.
And we are adding about, I'd say about 80 to 100 customers a month. That's the clip that we are operating at. And we, since we spoke last time, we actually really got a chance to acquire a company called eScribe out of Toronto. And they are squarely focused on the local government, so these are towns and cities, and also special districts and schools. So government funded boards.
Which that matches nicely. That matches nicely the base you were selling into. So when you say you're adding 80 to 100 per month right now, new customers, are they the same kind of customers you've been serving? They're school agencies, they're boards, government folks?
They're all board meetings, and they're all boards that we are adding, boards and committees. And, we were actually right around 60, 70 prior. And with eScribe coming in, we are actually seeing, most months clock around 70, 80 to, 100, depending on if it's a quarter ending month or not.
Now, your ARPU back then, you said that these customers were paying on average $5,000 a year to manage, 2 or 3 board meetings annually. Was eScribe's ARPU significantly below yours, or were they more enterprise than you, or were they exact match, same size customers?
They are actually higher. So if you think of a city council, there's often, a much bigger number of people involved, so more subscribers. Their, average contract, pre-transaction was right around 2025.
Oh, wow. Okay. Had they learned about, was that because there were more seats using their platform, or were they upselling more features that you hadn't built yet?
More seats. And there was some technology that we really liked that has application in all board pursuits that we have. I like this, this transaction, mainly similar culture. It gives access to talent. They're based in Toronto primarily. And then there were a team that was trying to get into the US market. We are, of course, well entrenched, a couple hundred people working in different cities here in US. So we can bring eScribe product to the US market. And we've had tremendous success with that. I'm sitting here in Laguna, Beach in California. And, we just signed up Laguna Beach as a customer, 2 weeks ago. So lots of synergies in, market expansion, some access to talent, and then certainly rounding out our portfolio in terms of covering all meetings, public meetings, these are the public sector meetings, I should say. And then through Onboard, we are also, of course, doing private boards and then publicly listed companies and then also nonprofits.
Oh, what's going on there, YouTube? Good to see you guys. Now imagine this. You love watching these interviews with SaaS founders, but imagine if we took all of the valuation data out from over 2,807 interviews I've done manually. Saves you a lot of time. Well, we've done this. We've built it into the beautiful interface inside of FounderPath. Check this out. I'll show you how you can access this in a second, but you log in, you connect your Stripe account, you see your valuation real time, you can see what it changed over the past 88 days, and even set goals for valuation this year. Now, the secret to valuation is there's many different ways to value a SaaS business. So the reason you're going to see 3 or 4 different valuations inside of your FounderPath dashboard, this is all free by the way, is because depending on who's doing the buying of your SaaS company, you're going to get a different valuation. A VC is going to pay a different valuation. Private equity firm is different. If you're going to do a minority sale, that's different. And if you sell the whole business, that's a different valuation. You can see all those when I hover over here. Right, so the teal is what a VC would pay, yellow is what private equity, and red is if you sold the whole thing outright. Now, what's cool about this is not built off random data. Again, you guys hear these interviews on YouTube. All these data are built from real-time valuation data points founders share with us on the show. So traction, 1.2 million, seed round, 3.7 raise, they sold 22% of their business. Go in here and filter by the event. Maybe you only want to see companies that have sold the whole business. Well, here are a bunch that have been acquired, the valuation and the multiple. Maybe you're going out right now and you're raising your seed round. Well, go in here and look at all this recent seed deals that went down, what they raised, what valuation they raised at, and what percent that they sold. There's never been a larger data set of SaaS valuations than what you can get now inside of FounderPath, and we're thrilled to bring it to you. All right, we're going to go back to the YouTube video here in a second, but if you want to check this tool out, if you want to jump in and sign up, you can check it out for free to get your valuation at this link, founderpath.com/products/valuations. Or if you go to founderpath.com and hover over products, click on get your valuation here and go ahead and sign up to give it a whirl. Again, all that valuation data live right inside the platform. I hope to see you there. All right, let's jump back into the interview. And when you made the purchase of eScribe, how many customers did they have at the time?
They had about 400 customers and change.
Oh, 400. I mean, so 400 times a $20,000 ACV. I mean, they were like 5, 6, 8 million in revenue, something like that.
Yeah, I know. I would say, just short of that, but yeah, that was sort of the revenue range. They were in the 5 to 10 million range. About that, I don't know the exact specific number this time, but yeah.
When did you close the transaction?
So, since we last spoke, we raised money, and then we actually really did this transaction around August, September. So we are closing in on 1 year anniversary of that. And then we also actually really divested. There was a divestiture that happened. There's an intranet business that I started long ago called Ensemble. So we sold that off towards the end of the year just because it had become slightly off center compared to where we were headed.
What was that called?
It was called Ensemble.
Ensemble, like ENSM Ensemble?
Spelled ON, but yes, it sounds
okay.
Ensemble exactly like. So it was an employee collaboration product. And, to quickly summarize, we started with an employee collaboration tool, pivoted towards board collaboration because the intranets are tougher, market. The extranets really became very important, especially when it comes to boards and, all the other folks that you work with. So we pivoted towards that market and then found a lot of success. And then now we've added eScribe. With all of this, the focus had become meetings, whether it's boards or committees or commissions and such. And the intranet product really kind of looked a little off center, so we actually really got it to the right spot. There's a company called N Contracts that actually, was doing a roll up on various employee collaboration tools, and that's where that team and that customer base is now gone.
Was that a small sort of meaningless transaction, or did it make more than a couple $1,000,000 for the business when you divested?
No, I think we sold in November. That was a good time, actually. It was actually, it was certainly, it was 8 figures. It was actually a good transaction.
Oh, wow. Okay. How much revenue did the Ensemble product have when you divested it?
Ensemble had, I don't know if I'm, if I should disclose the revenue, but it was actually, the range was less than 10 million.
Less than 10. Okay.
Yeah, cool. I'm still actually bound by that contract. I can't disclose the exact revenue figure. But well,
the reason I'm asking is I'm curious how much of like your core you sort of gave up. So I guess maybe a better question to ask that doesn't get you in NDA trouble is what percent of revenue across the entire company did Ensemble represent? Was it 50%?
No. Ensemble was much less. Ensemble was, about, I would say 25% of our revenue. And
Okay.
when we swapped out Ensemble for eScribe, we are actually, further ahead. So we, revenue run rate basis, that was, sort of neutral to actually favorable.
I see.
What we now have is it's like trading a player who done really well was not fitting well for a superstar that we can actually all get behind and build a championship team. That's how I sort of market it to my board.
That's a great analogy. Now, I am curious because when you last came on and you talked about the round in August of last year, I believe that was a $100 million secondary at a $400 million valuation, right?
It was not 100 million secondary. It was actually primary and secondary combined. It was actually $100 million round.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it. So
some of that capital was used for this acquisition. Some of that capital was secondary. Some of that capital actually went on the balance sheet.
Some was secondary, some for transactions, some for operations.
Mm-hmm.
I see. Okay. I mean, can you, without getting into trouble here, I mean, less than 50% of the 100 million was secondary?
Less than 50, yes. This is
fair.
a pretty significant transaction. We had looked at this transaction while we were raising money. We kind of knew that we were in due diligence with this team. So this was sort of, one of the drivers, if you will. So this gives us a chance to expand into a big market in terms of talent, Toronto. Then it also actually allows us to be full spectrum, all kinds of board meetings, like I summarized. And then it also gives us a chance to actually expand quickly. Remember, last year we were still in COVID sort of, times, which means if you had to add 30, 40, 50 people, it's extremely hard to, recruit people while you're all remote. So this was a good chance to find a team that can actually help us bulk up quickly, since we were seeing, tremendous growth overall.
What month did you close the eScribe deal?
eScribe deal was August, so it's coming up actually.
That was still the hot time. The market hadn't crashed yet. What revenue multiple did you pay for the business?
I don't know if I can actually, share the revenue multiple, but I'll say actually, there was some, I would say similar multiples. That market was actually really, 10 to 15x sort of multiples. It was a good market. And then, we got Ensemble, sort of packaged and off to end contracts also in the same time frame. And now we are seeing actually really sort of, first year anniversary of raising money and doing these transactions, all of that come through. We're seeing our growth rate sort of justify all of that. Yep. While the valuations were, crazy in the Valley. Remember, I was in the Midwest, still raising money from there. And I was conscious of finding the right partner, not the one who's giving us the highest multiple, but the one who had the best chance of getting us to sort of, where I think would be the right spot for this business.
Yep. Now, a lot of times when you're doing a deal like this, the team has 58 people. Was eScribe bootstrapped, or was there VCs to negotiate with?
Oh, it was actually really some angels, but it was bootstrapped. Okay. Yeah, largely bootstrapped.
So very capital efficient. That's great. Was the majority of the deal all cash, or do they now have a bunch of stock in onboard?
No, I think the employees actually, they all rolled. They were the core group, and actually really sort of, deeper L1, L2s were vested, and they got a chance to roll here. And some of them cashed out because they've been invested for a long time. I really like these transactions, especially when I think about being somebody who started a bootstrap business too. You can only hold on to all of that for 5, 10, 15 years while everybody else around you is actually either working for big tech where they're making big dollars every year, or they're seeing these short run startup cycles. This is a great chance to stay in the same business, stay on the same mission, while you get to take some chips off. So we saw a little bit of that, in this transaction as well.
But you don't want them to take too many chips off because you want them to be incentivized to stick around and build the now combined business together. So, I mean, can you share a little bit in terms of like what, there's a total deal price of X, which you probably can't share, but of X, what percent did you allow to be sort of, cash take off the table versus stock in the parent company?
There was not, a very simple rule, unfortunately, and I'm trying to form my own, framework around this. But a good rule of thumb is, you take half off, and then, in the new combined entity, you are back on the schedule to get some more options. So you are actually back on the vesting schedule. Now, what people quickly see, especially a year into this, they clearly see is that, this is a step function up from where they were earlier, in terms of the rigors of planning, the rigors of recruitment, the rigors of, investments that go into sales and marketing. And that's been the story. If you ask me last 1 year, we've gone from, 20, 30 people combined in sales and marketing to maybe 60, 70 people. That's been a bulk
just in sales and marketing?
Just in sales and marketing. Sales and marketing has actually become, it's US, it's Canada, it's UK, it's Australia. First of all, there are 4 geos. And then, Chief Revenue Officer joined us, around middle of the year last year. Double the number of AEs, double the number of SDRs, lots of, folks in various aspects of demand gen and, and partnership management. All of that went through a sea change. That's the big change. And every employee, whether they have been a long time, member, or the ones that came in last year or two, they clearly see that when they see the numbers actually look very different, right?
Yeah. So what is the, just for context, what's the total team size today? Everybody.
Total team size is actually, we're pushing, 275 maybe at this point. Okay. And with some recs open, we'll definitely cross 300 before the end of the year. Still high.
That makes sense. And then real quick, just to go back to the eScribe deal, right? So you mentioned, them doing between $5 and $10 million in revenue when you acquire them, and you pay somewhere between sort of a 10 and 15x multiple. You closed last November on that. So let's just say that deal price was right in the middle there, like a 70 million all in. What you're saying is you're totally cool having 50% of that, or 35 million be cash off the table, but you really want to have the other 35 million of the total deal price be, the equivalent stock and onboard to build the thing long-term together.
I think that's the model that I would like to pursue going forward. These can get actually expensive at times, and the investors don't actually really like the 50-50 model. I was sharing with you there that as an operator who stayed in this for a fair amount of time, if you're not a 5-year run kind of a business, and by the way, we are an evergreen business, and this is a key difference. Some pursuits are just going to be evergreen. 20 years from now, somebody's going to be solving for board meetings, I guarantee you. 20 years from now, somebody's going to be solving for employee collaboration. It's such pursuits. In the past, we didn't really have a chance for people to cash in on some of what they'd built. Now, with subsequent rounds and some of these transactions, I think it's an amazing opportunity that is afforded to early employees and founders. Mm-hmm. It didn't really shake out 50%. I was open to up till 50% for some of those, discussions. Of course, the founders have a lot bigger shares. They know they're building for long term, and that's where these are top heavy plans often. Most of those folks took some chips off, but didn't really take as much for the reasons that you cited. They know it's going to compound into a much bigger a number here as they look at into the future prospects.
Yep. Now, when you came on,
employees who are sort of lower in the organization and they've been there for 5-7 years, and it's okay for them to actually kind of just get that relief and then re-up for the next stage.
And so, Paroon, when you look at including the revenue you added from the eScribe acquisition, when you look at your revenue growth rate over the past 12 months, what percentage you hit?
So, past 12 would be tough. It's across 2 financial years. I can tell you our goal for this year is to be actually accelerating in our growth rates. So we'll actually really end close to 50% growth rate for the year if the rest of the plan year checks out.
Yep.
Which is tremendous. That's actually really sort of, one of the key objectives that I had from, this round to accelerate our growth.
Yep. Well, I mean, when you came on last and you talked about last year and again, around August, 2,500 customers paying $5,000 ACVs, you were at a $24 million run rate then. And if you added eScribe revenue on top of that, you've got to be probably either flirting with or past 30 million at this point. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. And, ending the year, of course, with a few big months, end of the year, actually, we could get to numbers that are higher than, closer towards 35, 37. And, we'll go from there. We are also building the foundation for long-term success here. Some of the go-to-market that we, redone, is it's keeping scale in mind. And our goal is to actually sustain this for 3, 4, 5 years as we actually really sort of continue to leverage all the opportunity that we see here. Some of the price that we find is available to us. Some of the talent that's actually really becoming available, with every step here.
Yeah, and look, I appreciate how you've built the business. You're one of the rare examples where, I mean, you weren't super diluted early. I think you did a $5 million private equity round on 30 million valuation back in 2018. But prior to that, bootstrapped, right?
Completely bootstrapped, ran a profit for, believe it or not, 15 years. And some of this math doesn't even make sense, but that's how it worked out. I had two partners early on, and both of them actually worked very well for 7, 8 years. We were taking dividends and profits. And then we realized that one of the partners wanted to actually move on. And the only way to free up the cap table was to buy him out, which meant we had to start saving up and I had to take some debt. And eventually, he was bought out. And then the second partner wanted to do the same.
How much did he own equity? How much equity did he own?
That was actually, good, more than a third of the company. That was 40%.
Well, so you bought back 40% of the business. What year was that?
This was 2010 to 2014. I think I was paying down that. My other partner was, a credit union. That was my early investor, and they owned about 15% of the cap table. They lent me money to buy, the equity from the other partner here, and then eventually they said, "Could we be on the same plan? Could you convert my equity into debt?" And I said, "Yeah, I can do it if we get to reasonable numbers here, as I'm still running a bootstrap company." And eventually there came a time when there was no cap table. There was just a single cell. I owned all of it, and there was some debt. And the first time we took capital from 5Ms, it was to clear out that debt and start thinking about growth again. And that was it's a skip, hop, jump method, but you really do have a wonderful sort of journey now that you look back at it, where early investors made money, and then you bootstrapped your way to pay all of that off, and then eventually took capital to start thinking bigger, scale, and higher growth rates, and then you actually go from there. Now it's M&A, and building for the next phase of the business.
Well, Paroon, people can hear more of your story at Founder 500, September 1st in Austin, Texas. We're going to dig deeper into all this, charts, graphs, more questions. It's going to be fantastic. Real quick, though, what year, two final questions here before we wrap up with the famous five. What year did you guys pass $1 million in revenue? Do you remember?
$1 million revenue, 2004, actually, 2005, 2004 or 5, one or the other. Yeah.
And so when did the company launch?
January 2003.
Wow. Okay. I love this. Long-term focus, consistent. It's great.
It's my 20th year of doing this. The success here, the secret here, I should say, is that I've always known that I'll be doing this. And I'm still building it like I'm going to be doing this 20 more years.
Yeah. I love that.
If I can say this with, not sounding, like I know how the future is going to go. Investors will come and go if you find yourself in an evergreen space. Keep building like you're going to own this forever, because you just might.
Yeah, I love that analogy. And Paroon, you're managing your cap table appropriately. You have taken some dilution, $5 million from 5Ms to take out the debt, $100 million secondary to get the eScribe deal done, plus the divestiture, plus operating capital. But it still sounds like, you still own what, 40 to 60% of the business personally?
I think I still own substantial portion of the business. And I still actually, it's still,
He dodged the question.
So much to be done.
He dodged the question. All right.
I did dodge the question just because it's actually really, I don't know what I should share. The math on this is actually far, I'm ahead of what I'd ever thought of. That's what I love.
I love that, Paroon. Let's wrap up your famous five. Quick answers. Number one, favorite book.
Favorite book, I'd say that's a good one, actually. What's a good book that I'm actually hooked to right now? Actually, favorite book would still be Eating the Big Fish. I think I gave you the same answer last time.
No, you said good to great.
Eating the Big Fish. This is, if you're a challenger, number 2, number 3, go get them. That's
number 2. Is there a CEO you're following or studying?
I am actually. I certainly like, quite a few of the ones that everybody follows. Tim Cook, Jamie Dimon. But this time, I actually went to Warren Buffett's annual conference and spent a couple of days and really like the long-term value and moat-based worldview that he presents, and I find it extremely compelling.
Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building onboard besides your own?
Favorite online tool. I'm using favorite online tool. Actually, I'd still say Slack. I Slack just with myself, so I should qualify. We use Teams for the company. I Slack. There's multiple channels. I'm having a great time just using it just on my phone for my thoughts.
Love that. Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
5 to 7.
And situation, married, single, kids?
Married, with a 5-year-old.
One kid. And did you celebrate a birthday? Are you 47 now?
I did celebrate a birthday. I'm 47 now. My wife and I have been together 20 years, and the business has been going 20th year now. And it's a lot to actually continue to be thankful for.
Guys, there I have it. Launched the business in 2003, broke $1 million in revenue back in 2005. On track to break, call it 36 million this year. They just did a big acquisition, $100 million secondary plus operating capital plus money for that acquisition last year at a $400 million valuation. He's being smart with capital allocation in the business. He looks to continue doing this for the next 20 years. Again, onboardmeetings.com. Help you run effective board meetings, both follow-up and pre-event to make sure it runs smoothly. Paroon, thanks for taking us to the top.
You got it. Thank you so much for hosting.
One more thing before you go. We have a brand new show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. It's called Shark Tank for SaaS. We call it Deal or Bust. One founder comes on, 3 hungry buyers. They try and do a deal live, and the founder shares back-end dashboards, their expenses, their revenue, ARPU, CAC, LTV, you name it, they share it. And the buyers try and make a deal live. It is fun to watch every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. Additionally, remember, these recorded founder interviews go live. We release them here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. Central. To make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure you click the subscribe button below here on YouTube, the big red button, and then click the little bell notification to make sure you get notifications when we do go live. I wouldn't want you to miss breaking news in the SaaS world, whether it's an acquisition, a big fundraise, a big sale, a big profitability statement, or something else. I don't want you to miss it. Additionally, if you want to take this conversation deeper and further, we have by far the largest private Slack community for B2B SaaS founders. You want to get in there. We've probably talked about your tool if you're running a company or your firm if you're investing. You can go in there and quickly search and see what people are saying. Sign up for that at nathanlatka.com/Slack. In the meantime, I'm hanging out with you here on YouTube. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes. Feel free to let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up. We get a lot of haters that are mad at how aggressive I am on these shows, but I do it so that we can all learn. We have to counter those people. We got to push them away. Click the thumbs up below to counter them and know that I appreciate your guys' support. All right, I'll be in the comments. See ya.